Alright, in this video I'm going to walk you through some of these major muscles that are found on this little fella here, and some of the associated structures associated with those muscles. So we'll start kind of here in the face and the skull and work our way down to the feet. Starting here in the forehead, we can see number one is labeling the frontalis muscle. Frontalis muscle that is part of the occipitofrontalis muscle. The occipitalis being what looks like number 13 is labeling in the back of the skull. And then connecting the two is that epicranial aponeurosis that sits on our scalp. And inferior to the frontalis will be the orbicularis oculi surrounding both eyes. And then surrounding the lips is the orbicularis oris. So you got oculi for eye, oris for mouth. Okay, if I turn the face body here a little bit sideways, I can expose some of the muscles in the cheeks. Looks like number 9 here. Sorry, I moved my camera. Number 9 is pointing to the masseter muscle, while number 8 is the buccinator, which is a very important muscle for kind of puckering our lips. Okay. Number 5 here is one of the zygomaticus muscles, but it's kind of tough to tell whether it's the major or minor, so I wouldn't worry too much about that muscle. Down in the neck, coming from the back of the head down towards the clavicle and sternum, is the sternocleidomastoid muscle, which gets its name for the points of attachment associated with it. Down into the chest here, we have the pectoralis major, which is a superficial muscle you can see on both sides. On the shoulder here, we can see nicely the deltoid, and on the tops of the shoulders, which will be better seen in the posterior view, is the trapezius muscle. And, looking in the arm here, visible is the big biceps brachii muscle, which is the one that guys like to flex and show off. By turning us sideways here a little bit, what is not labeled here but would be between the biceps brachii and the triceps, which is behind, would be the brachialis. And we do get a good view here of the deltoid again, so that's nice for us. And then down into the forearm, we can see number 28 is the brachioradialis. Want to make sure we understand that's the brachioradialis versus up here, which was the brachialis. Okay. Number 32 and number 33 are important muscles for flexing the wrist. We have the flexor carpi ulnaris. Remember, ulna is on the pinky side, which is opposite of the lateral thumb. So 32 is the flexor carpi ulnaris, and then 33 in the middle. 32 was the palmaris longus. If I turn it like this, what is not labeled is the flexor carpi ulnaris, which would be right here. So 32 is the palmaris longus. 33 is the flexor carpi radialis, as it kind of runs more along the radius. Now, not labeled here, but you can kind of see this white band coming across, kind of like a band-aid, would be the flexor retinaculum, which is much more visible in the arm model. Moving from the arm anteriorly, posterior, you can see the triceps muscle, very visible, the two heads, medial and lateral head, which are not something I'm concerned with. And I'm not going to worry about the ones on the posterior side of the forearm, because they're not labeled where you can best see them over here. They're kind of labeled under here, number 30 there being a muscle that we don't even care about. So I won't focus on that. Okay, down into the abs. We have just a superficial view here of the abs. On the right side of their torso is where we can see the kind of white covering that covers this ab muscle. This covering is called the rectus sheath. Okay? It's kind of like a flat, like tendon Then you've got the tendinous intersections, which are the horizontal lines that split up the six-pack, and then the vertical line, which splits the rectus abdominis in half, which is the linea alba, running from our xiphoid process down to our pubic symphysis. And the actual muscle, as I just mentioned a second ago, is the rectus abdominis, which is superficial, to the transverse abdominis, which would be underneath. Kind of like how the external oblique is superficial to the deeper internal oblique. So what we can only see in this model is the external oblique here, rectus abdominis here. And then if I kind of zoom in underneath the armpit here, we can get a good view of the serratus anterior muscles on both sides, okay, which aren't labeled for whatever reason. All right, looking at the back here, we've got the trapezius muscle, very, very big shoulder and back muscle. On our lower back, we have the latissimus dorsi muscles that come together to form this kind of sheet-like tendon called our thoracolumbar fascia. Number looks like 23 here labeled is the infraspinatus muscle. You can see it nicely. The teres minor and teres major are shown. They're just not labeled. The teres minor would be this muscle here. Teres major muscle would be that one there. Very, very easy to see those. Okay, moving down into the legs. We're on the posterior side here, so we might as well stay that way. We can see the two big butt muscles, the gluteus maximus muscles, very visible. And then into the hamstring muscles, we've got 3 muscles. Okay, you always want to try to find lateral. Lateral should be very easy in the legs. Lateral muscles of the hamstring are numbers 41 there. Is number 41, which is the biceps femoris muscle, not to be confused with that biceps brachii muscle in the arm. Okay, well, muscles, since there's one on each arm. Okay, the other 2 muscles sit on one another. The one that sits superficially is the semitendinosus, which is this muscle shown nicely right there. And then deep to it is the semimembranosus, which is what 43 is showing. Okay. Moving down into the lower legs, since I'm right here, might as well show it. Would be much very easy to see the gastrocnemius muscle, which has 2 heads, big, very powerful calf muscles that then extend down and attach to the calcaneus by way of the calcaneal tendon. I kind of turn around here. Deep to the powerful gastroc is number 45 here, which is the less powerful soleus muscle, which is much more important for just having, or basically it's a muscle that keeps us standing. So it's a fatigue-resistant muscle that is going to be contracted to help keep our legs straight as we stand up. All right, down into our quads here, where we're going to find quite a few muscles, not only associated with knee extension, but also muscles associated with the hip for hip flexion and whatnot. So first muscle to identify, it's not labeled, but you can see it plain as day here, is the tensor fascia lata muscle. Okay, along with the big butt muscle, or gluteus maximus, extending down the lateral side of our thigh is the IT band, what we call our iliotibial tract. Okay. Medially, we can see some of the adductor muscles. We've got 36, 37, and those are very, very visible. 36 being right here at the top. 36 is the pectineus muscle, but that's not one that we focus on in this class. The number 37 muscle is the adductor longus muscle, so it's a long adductor. Okay. Visible running medially down the thigh is not an adductor muscle, but is the gracilis muscle. Okay. It is a kind of a long strap-like muscle, a lot like what number 34 is. 34, I've always had students kind of compare it to a seat belt. that kind of comes across the hip from the lateral side to the medial side of the knee, which is the sartorius muscle. Okay. So you got gracilis, sartorius, look a lot alike. They just kind of travel in different directions. 35 at the top here is a collection of muscles called the iliopsoas muscles. Includes the iliacus and the psoas muscles. Collectively, we just call it the iliopsoas, and those are important hip flexor muscles. Okay. The actual quads that we hear people talk about are a collection of 4 muscles that share this singular tendon here, which is the quadriceps tendon. It includes the rectus femoris muscle, shown here nicely, the vastus medialis. Okay, I know that's medialis because here's the big toe and there's medial. The vastus lateralis, and what's actually not visible since it's deep to that rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius. Okay. Now, the quadriceps tendon is this tendon above the patella. The patellar tendon is the tendon. It's essentially the same one. It's just different spot below the patella. So you have the patellar tendon down here below the kneecap, quadriceps tendon above. Okay. And then the last couple things here, 47 down here in the lower leg is visible. That is the tibialis anterior muscle. Here you can see the tibia nicely. So the tibialis anterior muscle right next to it, very, very visible. And then at the top of our ankle, we can kind of see these 2 little white bands. Those are retinacula, like what are found in the wrist. These are extensor retinacula. You have the superior extensor retinacula and the inferior extensor retinaculum. All right, that takes care of that fellow. Thank you.